Hello and welcome to Steve's Backyard Bonsai. Today I'm going to try and race through a bunch of pruning that needs to be done. The fast growers have done what they're supposed to do. Not always in places where I like, but I'm going to try and get some things under control today. Some things you've seen very recently and some you haven't seen for a while. So let's get started with my cherry trio. All right, so this one I had said I was going to reorient next time I repot. But right now, I just want to get branches developing somewhere. I do want to keep this harmonious as if it's 3 trees growing together. That was just a pruning stub. Here I pruned it here and it grew this way. It hasn't really progressed. It has spent a lot of energy on other branches, like this one, which I'm going to cut to here. And I've got to push back the energy on this. So I think I'm going to take the top off this section. And maybe I can pull this around in that back. And I'm going to shorten this one back to this leaf, which goes in that direction, leaving a pruning stub. All right, this I'm going to let extend. This I'm going to go way back to the first set of leaves. I'm cleaning up pruning stubs wherever I see them. That leaves this branch here. There's a nice bud back there. Or do I want to take this whole top off? I think I want to take the whole top off. All right. Give it a little spin. Yeah, I'm going to rotate this tree around so this branch is on the outside, I think. Here's a weeping willow I don't think I've ever shown you. I grew this from a cutting last year and it did really badly. So I put it on a bed of sand in this pot and I had to trim off the roots just before. So it's doing well. The roots were all over the place and I have some branching I can hope is reliable enough to prune back to. And there's branching here and here. That's not exactly good placement for a branch, is it? Should I try and redirect it? I don't see any buds, but why not? If I can redirect it out the front, it might be okay. All right, my little willow from a cutting, double trunk, lots of roots. The next move with this one will probably be in a triagami pot. Here's a young wisteria. This is not one that grows wild in my yard. This I grew from seed, which I found at a nursery on the ground below an arbor. So I'm just going to try and get it into some shape. I'm going to let this tree tell me what it wants to do because I don't really have a clue. A couple of yellow leaves I'll take off. Yeah, I never saw the adult tree with this. Just, you know, not with any foliage on it. You know, there are buds there at each one of these intersections. So maybe I should be a little more drastic. All right, let's see what this tree wants to do. Clean this up. Let's see what it wants to do. Here's another young wisteria. This one I grew from a root cutting. I have 2 like this. And it's odd. It's in the wrong pot. but it's healthy. And I want to get it into some sort of shape someday. This is awkward, but I wouldn't mind if it continued to grow, so I'm not going to mess with it. This leaf, bad spot. I have a branch bending back on itself, so it might not be bad to be doing something like this with this tree eventually. So I think I'm going to take this off. Remove these leaves growing on the inside of that bend. These leaves. I'm just going to take the vigor off the top of this, and it has another little branch headed in the right direction. I'm going to knock these back. Yep, that's it for now on this tree. Back on the bench. Here's another wisteria that's gone a little wild. This one I put a purposeful bend in at one point. A root was here that just rotted away. These roots don't look beautiful, but it's in this pot and it's growing. Just have to figure out what to do with it. I like what's happening here. This is where I pruned it last. And I'll just thin that out. Clean this up. It's got a whole nice another branch happening here. It's pretty pliable and I can do what I want with it. I'm going to cut this one right to here. Let's see what it does. Let's thin out the leaves. Take this one out. And I'm just cutting it just before the bud that's on all these leaves. This one interferes. This one goes back and looks a little stupid. This one might become a branch. I'm going to let that go. Take this leaf off. Frond, whatever you want to call it. These are fronds. They don't become a branch until they stalk. If you can see what I mean. You got a stalk happening. Take the lower leaves off of this so you can see the stalk. Take this away. You have a nice staggered bunch of leaves there. This one gets in the way. I'd love a big fat trunk wisteria, but I don't have one, and that's okay. All right, so this one's pruned up, waiting for its next growth spurt, and there should be one. We have a good 2, possibly 3 months left of growing. August, September, and some of October. Let's get this guy on the bench again. Here's an unkempt little Satsuki Azalea that I want to slip pot from here into this slightly larger Korean mica pot. All right, so I want to get that out of there. Grandpa's palette knife. I only put these in here last year, so I'm expecting that the mix is a little crumbly still. But with 2 years in a pot like this, yeah, it's still a little crumbly, and I'm not going to mess with it at all. I'm just going to put it in that other pot. All right, so here's a little bit of the old soil. I'll put that in the bottom. A little bit more new soil right in the middle. Not too much. because it's not really that much deeper than the other one. It's a little wider. A round pot, so placement's not important. Maybe a little under that side. And fill in around the edges. Something I've wanted to do all summer. So let me work that in. And I'm going to use my handy ceramics needle so I can really feel what's going on, and I can break up the edges of the old root ball. This is a really, really good tool. I've found so many uses for it already. Okay, so since I'm going to be pruning this tree today as well, I really want it to be as steady in the pot as possible. There's a void here. This is the sister or brother plant to my other azalea, which I am taking a little bit better care of. They were growing together and I finally separated them. And this is a Satsuki. I'm not sure what variety, but it's a very late bloomer after all my other azaleas have bloomed, and I don't have any other azalea bonsai except for the sister to this one. But my landscape azaleas, all different types, but this is the only Satsuki. And this was from a cutting from about 20 years ago. Okay, that should be pretty sturdy. Let me double check that. Yeah. All right, let's get pruning. This would be a cool branch to let do something. A little clutter in here. Just cleaning that out makes a lot of difference in the look of maturity. But I've let these branches extend just way too much. I never deflowered these like I did the other Satsuki, so the little pods have matured and gone to seed. I'm not going to do much shaping today. Just going to clear out the problems. I want this tree just to recover in its new home and feel healthy. If it wants to grow over the rest of the summer, terrific. But this isn't a tree that I've put much effort into yet, and if it's anything like my other azalea, it took a while for me to feel like it was nice enough to pursue as a bonsai. So it's in a bonsai pot, so let's call it a bonsai. This is growing the wrong way. This is growing the wrong way. Little branch in here with hardly any vigor. And next year I'll do, just as the growing season begins, I'll do a more severe pruning on this, and we'll get all kinds of new branches. It's getting too wide. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to take these two off and leave these two more acute ones. I'm going to take this off and this top one. Wish I could shorten that now, but I can't. And I think that's all I'm going to do with this one for now. Just let me give it a little spin for you. I kind of like this as the front. And this tree has a lot going for it, but it also has a lot it has to grow. So let me get some water on it and put it on the bench. Next victim is my Tanuki. And my Tanuki was part of a challenge. I'm sure you have come across Andy from Bonsai Crazy, and he put out a Tanuki challenge, and I accepted. So today I'm gonna take some of the wire off that I had on here. Gingerly, and see if this held to shape, and assess what I know to be wire marks. Yep, there they are. I'm trying to support the branch. So that I don't further damage by removing the wire. And hopefully it stays in place and isn't a problem. But I'll go through this tree, take off all the wire, and we'll come back when it's done. Now let me just point out what's here. There's a guy wire here. This branch is wire bent. I bent this one pretty severely, used a larger gauge wire. And this is vet tape, which I use to lash the tree to it at this point and back here. So I'm going to get rid of this band, but I'm very leery about removing this band, as ugly as it is. And we'll talk about that when I get to it. All right, come back when all the wire's gone and these bands are off. All right, so apart from some serious wire bite right here, it's holding pretty well. I've seen much better jobs at Tanuki than this, and I do not, I teased about this. The reason I don't want to do this one is because it is lashed to a rock underneath, and I can't trust that these roots have developed enough to be holding the tree and the rock in place. You know, this could fall over. So I want to let the roots develop more. When I finally do repot this is just a really cheap plastic pot. It's got a lot of flex to it. When I repot it, I'll fit the rock real nice, but all right, so it's unencumbered. What do I want to do to trim it? Well, this little piece comes off. I've got three, well, the branch divides into two. I got this real strong one. I think I'm going to take the middle one out. And by the way, if you don't know it, these thuja trees were started by my mom by sticking cuttings in the ground. And she's 98 now. And her assisted living still reminds me that she's still doing it. All right, I'll secure that somehow. I like this. Probably should take these out. I'm going to take the top part of it off, which is the highest part, to flatten it out. And then this branch behind it needs to come off. Okay, now I've just created some space for that. This is going to require some stability still. I'll figure that out. Okay, so here is my Thuja occidentalis, all pruned up and secured right here. I need to put a piece of wire here as well. I have the wires across with double vinyl against the branch. It's going to need another wire right here. And I'll do that and put it back on the bench. I'm just going to let this flang dangle for a while. I don't want to put much on there. I might do a stake in the ground just to hold it steady, but I don't know. All right, let's move on to the next one. Next up, needing a shaping, is my Jacaranda forest. If there's a secret to getting these to branch, I need to know. I got a branch starting here, but the main leader took off. So I have no choice but to cut it down even there and let this one take off, which is what I'm going to do. Now, each one of these segments that I cut off could be a cutting, and I'll show you why I'm concerned about cuttings. I do have some seeds that my good friend Ginger sent me, but this tree died, this tree died, and this tree died. They died when my dog dove through this to get to some tea bags that had organic fertilizer in them. So I'm going to cut them shorter. I don't want to pull them out just yet because I don't want to disturb the roots around it or anything that was meshed with it. So remember, I had the emergency repot after Luca decided to try and get those tea bags, which he got 10 of. But this has been growing nicely. I just want to get some branching. It's elusive. You see, it starts here. I got a little bit of branching that started here, but it's not looking great. So I'm going to take this one back to here. And I'm not afraid to do this because these are reliable growers. This one had branching to here, and it looks pretty good. So I will get a branch or two at every point where two leaves meet, or a leaf meets the stem. So if I cut this one down to here, this gets some light, this little one, and this gets an opportunity to branch while this one grows. And to explain what I meant before, if I take the leaves off of this and clip it here, that's a cutting. Then I come to a good length and clip it above these leaves. That's a cutting. This one has a little branch down here. And it's starting to get all woody over here with a nice short internode. So, could this tree in this planting be that short? It's the main tree. I think I better go to here. So if any of them take, and I'll bring them in the winter time, if any of them take, I will replace these trees with them and do whatever with the rest. If they don't take, I'll try again some other time. All right, so with this planting, I've wanted to come back on a slant. So this one should be a little lower, and I do have that opportunity right here. Let me jump to this tree. A little bit shorter. This tree a little bit shorter. This tree down to here. And once again, I'm trying to get branching. This one I'm going to have to take to here. Each time I do this, I have an opportunity to get a branch, but what always happens is a single leader takes over. Here I've got two branches coming from just below a cut point. So if I take this one to there, that should stimulate something. The one next to it, about the same height. I don't want to go too much lower. I'd have to go way lower. I think I will. It's a weird tree, the way it's growing. I probably have to stunt it down to here. And these are semi-tropical, so they grow all year long. This one I better cut to here. I'm okay cutting this. And I will see growth here within 2 weeks, if history is any guide. All right, so everything has more of a chance now. Give it a little spin around. This is the back. I cut those 3 short. They'll be replaced. Side view, little forced perspective going on. And front view, you can see the depth, but if these come out, that depth is not going to be so good. So they definitely have to be replaced. That's going to take a while. All right, let's put this one back and get the next victim. Next up is one of my little grapes. Just going to clean it up and remove any of the long growth because I want to try and keep this small. It gets very tiny leaves when it does leaf out. There's a bud there. This goes in the wrong direction. I think I'm going to cut it here and hope it generates more on that side of the tree. Something's going to have to go here, and it might just be this whole central stem. You know, I think I will, because there is a little branch growing out the back. There. Nice little miniature grapevine. Now I'm going to get the big one. A lot of questions with that. All right, next up on the chopping block is my wild grape vineyard. And it has some exciting things happening to it. You see the little grapes? They get bigger and they get very colorful. So I want to let a crop grow, if you can see that. But I'm going to have to support this, you know, up higher than the vineyard. Oh, look at this. That one grabbed on. It's so amazing, these little hooks. All right, so I want to let those develop so you can see what the colors are. And the suggestions that had come through to cut these off and use either floral tape or floral wire, That's what I'm going to do. Actually, someone said floral string, but I was unable to find floral string. I've got paper wrapped wire that looks pretty good. But let's get these tie wraps off. Okay, that stayed pretty nicely, but probably because this one's captured between here. If I cut that, I probably still should secure this down, so I will. I'll do all that in time lapse. All right, everything is secure. It doesn't look great, but remembering that I'm trying to build the superstructure, when I prune it, next time I prune it, it's all going to be low down like to here. So I'm not really worried about all of this. It's leaning. It's only going to get worse once the weight of these little grapes starts to be involved, but I may have to further support it. As I said, this is a maintenance nightmare. So I think that's all I have time for today. All right, I'm going to put this somewhere where I can watch it and it doesn't get tangled up with the other trees on the bench. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for keeping me company in my backyard.